The war in Syria, are the U.S. and its allies bringing peace or making a bigger mess? Washington and the White House seem more confused than ever when it comes to both domestic and foreign policy, and we catch the fallout. And what does climate change have to do with justice? Stay with us as we talk about all that and more. This is The Last Sip. Welcome to The Last Sip. It's week 2, and we're still here. Like every week since January 2017, it's been another crazy week in the news, but we're here to help orient you with our 3 big takeaways, our 3 big sips as we like to call them, to get you through and to help you figure out how you want to respond. Our first sip this week is Syria. Even though the US, French, and British bombs have stopped falling, the war grinds on in its 7th year. Here to break it all down for us is Jamille Bigio of the Council on Foreign Relations. We'll take a look at the connection between foreign policy and domestic politics with BBC political analyst and author Eric Ham. And because this is Earth Day, our 3rd sip focuses on the often overlooked relationship between climate change, race, and poverty with Caroline Lewis of Miami's The Clio Institute and Thanu Yakupitiage of 350.org. We'll end today with our hot tea segment, which is my chance to cut loose on pop culture. On to the first sip. The US, France, and Great Britain assert that they bombed Syria to stop the use of chemical weapons banned under international law since just after World War I. The war in Syria has caused that nation of almost 20 million to have nearly 1 out of 3 people be displaced or homeless, turned 1 out of 5 into refugees living outside the country, and led to more than 450,000 deaths. That means that everyone in Syria knows someone who has been killed by the conflict. An overwhelming majority of these deaths have been caused by non-chemical weapons that are totally legal under international law. So exactly what message is being sent by US bombs? Here to help me answer that is Jamille Bigio, Senior Fellow in the Women and Foreign Policy Program at the Council on Foreign Relations. She served on the National Security Council in the Obama administration. Jamille, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, before we sort of turn to Syria, I wanted to just ask you about North Korea. There's been a lot of movement on North Korea this week, as you know, and I know that it's not your area of expertise sort of geographically, but you have made foreign policy inside a presidential administration. And so I'm wondering if from the outside, does it look like this is a coherent policy? Is this the way that you would normally go about trying to decide how to relate to another country?
First, of course, in any foreign policy conversation, the results are what's critical. So there is news out today that North Korea has signaled that it will suspend its nuclear testing, which is a significant win going into the talks. It's important to have the peace treaty between North and South Korea, but for it to result in the U.S. withdrawing troops from South Korea as a condition is also something that the U.S. should never pursue.
On to Syria. What message are we sending to Assad? Are we saying that it's okay to kill people with certain types of weapons or other? Is our military intervention just that without a strategy for actually how to end the war? I mean, what's your take?
First off, it is important that when a country uses weapons of mass destruction, that we do send a signal that that's wrong and that we won't permit that. But at the same time, we by no means want the message to be that it's okay that a government kills and terrorizes its own citizens so long as it doesn't use chemical weapons. The U.S. really needs to up its response to the Syrian refugees. More than 10 million people have been displaced by the conflict, whether within Syria or to neighboring countries.
Mm-hmm. What has been the disproportionate impact of the war on women and girls?
Right. So first off, we see over 3 million children in Syria and in the refugee camps do not have access to education at all. So this is a lost generation of children that have not had the opportunity to learn, and their entire futures will be affected by it. We see that half of health facilities in the country are destroyed. are shut or not fully functioning. We also see that there's been an increase in gender-based violence, whether this is sexual violence being used to terrorize communities and terrorize women and men, or it's an uptick in domestic violence with the stresses of the conflict. We've also seen an increase in early marriage. So more and more girls are being married off at younger and younger ages with families not able to support them.
I want to thank you for coming in and talking to us. There is much more about Jamille and her work on our website. Go to thelastSIP.org for more information. We're also going to have a web extra with her on the role of women in peacekeeping. So please go to our website and find out about that. And we're also going to have ways in which you can help in Syria directly. So when you go to our website, you can click on how to help, and you can find out more information. We'll be right back.